Present. Here.
Present.
Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Start with visitor comments.
Dr. Connie and Draco. Good evening. My name is Dr. Connie Draco. I'm a board-certified pediatrician and neonatologist, and I just want to thank you for the opportunity for allowing me to speak tonight. I want to thank the Southern Lehigh administration first. Okay, if I can. Is this on? Are you able to hear me? I can hear you very well.
Connie,
Yes.
why don't you take Mr. Fisher's mic? And it might, my mic is always booming, as you can see. So anyone who's having trouble being heard is welcome to come to this one. I have to speak down. I don't know how to unvelcro it for you.
Okay, that's okay. All right, good evening. My name is Dr. Connie Draco. Third time's the charm. Good evening. My name is Dr. Connie Draco. I'm a board-certified pediatrician and neonatologist, and thank you for the opportunity for allowing me to speak this evening. I want to thank Southern Lehigh administration for following the laws that protect all students. Next, I just want to talk and clarify some terms that are accepted in the medical and psychology communities, and I think this will be helpful in our conversation this evening. First, I just want to define sex. Sex is an assignment that's made at birth, typically based on external genital anatomy. Dr. Wayak, right, he certainly knows he and I could be at a delivery, and sometimes we just don't know the sex of the baby, correct? Is it a boy, girl? We're not sure, right? Is this an XX newborn with congenital adrenal hyperplasia with virilization? Is this an XY newborn, maybe with hypogonadism? Sometimes we can't tell by the external genitalia what the sex is of the baby. So should we look at the internal organs? Should we look at chromosomes? But then what do you do with the Klinefelters, who's XXY, right? So as you can see, sex is not straightforward. Gender identity, a person's deep internal sense of being female, male, something in between, or neither. Transgender, somebody whose gender identity does not match the gender they were assigned at birth. Please note that there is nothing in the definition that says transgenders are sexual predators. There's nothing in the definition that says transgenders are practice voyeurism. Please note there's nothing that says transgenders are sexually deviant. They're just human beings that wake up, drink coffee, and each use the bathroom during the day like the rest of us. So this fear of a transgender youth somehow attacking somebody in the bathroom is simply unfounded. If anything, we need to ask the question of how to protect our transgender youth. A study in the journal Pediatrics shows that transgender youth who attend schools with restrictive bathroom rules were actually more likely to be assaulted, whether they're forced to use their gender-assigned bathroom. Another study in the Journal of Youth and Adolescence showed that 56% of transgender youth reported suicidal ideation, 31% attempted suicide previously, and this is in comparison to 20 and 11% respectively for cisgender youth. So I'm asking that all people in this room, on camera, everyone in our community, to please find some mutual respect and understanding for one another, and for all the transgender LGBT youth who feels that they do not fit the mold, whatever that expected mold is, please know that there's an entire community of people who love and support you. Thank you.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. My name is Pa.C.S. I'm a parent of an elementary school child in the district here. You're going to hear some things tonight about this being a privacy issue about transgender children. And as the previous speaker said, framing this as a privacy issue is really making a big assumption that trans students are somehow more prone to, wanting to view what's going on in the bathroom of other students. And really, it's nothing more than thinly and quite honestly, poorly veiled bigotry. This is Jim Crow with a new target. So at a minimum, if we're going to talk about this as a community, if we're going to talk about this as a school board, as a school district, as human beings, can we at least call it what it is? Can we at least say that this is just people trying to hide behind a thin veil of bigotry and they're cowards? And then we can at least have an honest discussion about it in the public. Because there's no proof, there's no evidence, and there's no desire among transgender students to want to see what someone else is doing in the bathroom. There's doors, there's partitions, there's stalls. It is a massive assumption, and it's shameful the way that somebody would try to hide their hatred and fear around privacy issues. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much.
My name is John Schwartz. Thank you for letting me speak today. The vision statement of Southern Lehigh District's comprehensive plan from 2022 to 2025 is the Southern Lehigh School District is an inclusive, innovative, and inspiring community of learners where relationships matter and students are empowered and motivated to face the challenges of today and tomorrow. Restricting transgender students from using a bathroom that correctly aligns with their gender identity neither is inclusive nor innovative, as discrimination is no new idea. This restriction does all but empower students, rather causing them to feel defeated and unheard. Rather than motivating students to face the challenges of today and tomorrow, you're yet introducing another challenge. The education value statements in Southern Lehigh District's comprehensive plan from 2022 to 2025 includes everyone should feel safe, valued, and respected in an inclusive and diverse learning environment, as well as positive collaboration and partnerships foster growth and understanding. A constraint on students' freedoms directly contrasts Southern Lehigh's goal to make everyone feel safe, valued, and respected. As already stated, positive collaboration and partnerships foster growth and understanding. Negative violation of students will only do the opposite. Since students formulate the majority of the school and therefore use the bathrooms more than any other group, the administration or teachers, why do we not create a survey to understand the students standing on this topic? Thank you.
Hi, and thank you for your time tonight. My name is Larissa Kashmir, and I'm a parent of two high school daughters in the district. I care about their education and their safety in the bathroom, in the locker room, and everywhere. I'm also a high school girls lacrosse coach, go Spartans, and I care about our kids having fun and fair games. And I have to admit, I also like to win a lot, and we're pretty good. But I'm here tonight to speak because I wear a different hat. I'm a pediatric endocrinologist at Lehigh Valley Riley Children's Hospital, and I have been for about 14 years. As a pediatric endocrinologist, I'm an expert in the hormones of babies, children, teens, and young adults. I care for our kids in the district and well beyond with pediatric diabetes, thyroid disorders, puberty problems, adrenal disorders, growth problems, and gender dysphoria. Gender dysphoria is when a child has, or any youth, has an intensely negative feelings related to their gender assigned at birth. Gender dysphoria has nothing to do with sexual preferences or who you are romantically attracted to. Kids with gender dysphoria are not sexual deviants. They do not want to approach or even look at anyone in the bathroom or locker room. They just want to pee like everyone else does there. And as all of our children do, they just want to blend in, feel respected, and have friends, and just get through the school day without unneeded stress. And kids with gender dysphoria have a lot of extra stress. They've got a ton to be stressed about, especially if they haven't yet worked up the courage to come out to their family. We want school to be a safe place, physically and emotionally. That's why we do the darned active shooter drills that stress my girls out beyond belief. But we think that's a necessary stressor for their safety. Using a child's preferred name and pronoun helps them to feel safe and respected at school. And when our kids feel safe and respected, they're more likely to actually come to school and more likely to be able to focus on school and schoolwork to learn, which is our primary job here. We've had trans kids in Southern Lehigh School District for years, and we've had trans kids in the Lehigh Valley for years. They're not here with an agenda. They're not here to groom anyone. They just want to be kids like everybody else. As one of just a handful of pediatricians in the state of Pennsylvania who has amassed almost 2 decades of experience and expertise with children with gender dysphoria, I'm more than happy to answer any questions, and whether that be tonight, in the future, and try to work with facts. I'd like to make sure we're making decisions based on evidence and not irrational fears. I work with children, parents, other caregivers, and always the mental health experts who are part of our team. You've heard about the terrible statistics for depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, suicide attempts, and suicide completions. But the good news is that when we respect the kids, thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. I was taught that whenever you're doing something hard, you should really just take a moment and take a few deep breaths, and this is really hard. This topic is really hard, so I hope you join me. I'm going to do 2 big ones. If you really want children to succeed, you need to support them. For those who are transgender, those people who might be hostile to them, that's going to cause problems academically, physically, emotionally. So if our goal here is to really support kids and get high achievers, good outcomes, I think that's a pretty straightforward answer. I do think it's interesting that if you look at the agenda, you don't see bathrooms, you don't see trans issues on there. So why is it that we are all up here talking about this right now? I mean, I think we should all ask ourselves that question. It's just really strange to me. I just wonder if there's another motive. So if I walked into a bathroom with you, what would you do? Would you call the cops on me? Because I could be trans. And if you're scared of being in an enclosed space with a trans person, you probably should go, because, here I am, and I could be trans. I am happy to go in a bathroom, a locker room, anywhere with you, just to let you know that I'm just a petite little person here. I'm not going to hurt anyone, and I think a lot of us would show you the same. To all the kids out there, all the people in our community who are queer, I just want you to know it gets better. It gets better, and we are there for you. We're here to support you. Thank you very much.
Hello. Lived in this township since 1992. My wife attended this high school. Both my daughters attended this high school. One graduated, one's a senior. I've listened to a few folks tonight. I kind of wish I was later in the draw, but I'll take it. I I've heard some folks step up and lay down credentials that we're supposed to believe that matters. But what I have not heard is I have not heard anybody say, and I'll be the first, who's looking out for my daughter. I had to listen to my daughter tell me about sharing a toilet with a boy with a penis. Let him pee in the toilet next to her. I'm not a bigot. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to be around anybody who is taking care of the safety or the well-being of the girls in this school. It's not fair to them. It's not fair to us. There's far more people that should be addressed and their concerns addressed than a minority. Many of these girls are afraid to speak up. That's called bullying when you're afraid to speak up. So we either condone bullying or we don't. You folks need to do your job. Make very tough decisions. I'm not here to give you the solution. I am here to speak on behalf of both of my daughters that had experienced this while attending this school. Because they do not have the intestinal fortitude to stand up. I'm standing up here for them today. Please keep that in mind. There's lots of girls in this school. We have a duty to protect those girls.
Good evening. I did have a speech that I wanted to get off my chest. Resident here from the area. Daughter graduated here in 2018. This high school was something to be very proud of. You have raised, from the teachers to administrators, a lot of great young citizens out there today. There's always two sides to every story. And I can give you a real simple story. My daughter was a freshman in upper level math and was approached by another female that made her uncomfortable. I handled it in my own home. In our home, we care about everybody. You be kind to people, you be respectful. But I will tell you one thing. Work for a corporation, we have inclusion. We have everybody who wants to be a part of something. Okay, I think our society is getting a little skewed. Common sense is not so common anymore. At our corporation, we have a men's room, a woman's room, and then a door with a man and a woman on it. We all identify as something. We're not any different than anybody else. It's about what side are you sticking up for? How about we just stick up for everybody, give everybody an opportunity to choose which bathroom they want to go in, how they identify. This is common sense. This shouldn't be a long, drawn out, big board meeting when there are very important things that need to be brought back to old school. I'm a fiscally conservative person. I love our taxes, like them to be lower, but socially, I'm liberal. Every child in here is important. They have a voice. I get that. This isn't about emotions tonight. Everybody wants to belong. We see the signs everywhere. You belong. No, we all belong. I think we, as a society, have gotten off course. We've gone far left, we've gone far right, and we've really decided to make a line in the sand. I guarantee you 80% of the people in this room of my generation want to make sure all these kids are taken care of. And I think as a school board, you keep your eye on the prize, you make a right decision for everybody. There's a solution. It's not that hard. All I ask is listen to everybody, but make a common sense decision. Because our generation didn't have any of this. I had friends that were gay, black, lesbian, everything under the sun. And we all still hang together. Just because you don't agree with me doesn't mean you have to hate me. And that's where our society is going wrong. So I tell everybody, step up. You all have a voice. And just because you feel a certain way doesn't make you wrong. But there's a solution. And I guess what I'm asking is listen tonight, but make a educated decision on what's best for everybody.
Just a quick reminder that the speakers need to address the board and not the audience. It's protocol. Thank you.
Eleanor Corvino.
Hi, everybody. My name is Ellie Corvino, and I'm a senior here at Southern Lehigh High School. And I'm just going to start off with saying that I'm not afraid to stand up for what I believe in, and I'm going to speak for myself and for a lot of the students here at Southern Lehigh High School. So to start with, I'm an active participant in this community through long nights in the shop for robotics, to playing in the high school marching band, to running the Girls Who Code Club. The reason why I decided to speak at this meeting here today is because while many parents and other community members are speaking on this issue, students often aren't heard. It is crucial for the school board when making any decisions to consider how the students feel and how the students will react to said changes. However, the supposed quote-unquote privacy issues being discussed by candidates in the district, while they may believe are real concerns, are not the real concerns of the student body at Southern Lehigh, and their proposed plans will not garner the support from the student body here at the high school. The reality is that those who are causing an uproar about so-called privacy issues are an uproar about something that isn't actually an issue at Southern Lehigh. For the students here, while we can often cause a ruckus and we love to gossip, when it comes down to kids at Southern Lehigh, we do not wish ill upon anyone, and if it comes to it, we will stand up for our classmates, including those of the LGBTQ+ community. These ideas are not even implicit or just a suggestion. These are an explicit attack on people who may identify as queer, gender nonconforming, and transgender. This seeks to alienate them and to make them viewed as others. This is not what the Southern Lehigh should stand for, and certainly not what the student body believes in. Part of the job of the school administrators is to ensure the safety and comfortable environment, but that will be destroyed if these proposals are considered by the board. From the perspective of a student here, I urge you to not consider these proposals and to help ensure the quality of education and inclusion that Southern Lehigh School District should stand for.
May I just have a moment, please? Before our next speaker begins, no, you're good. You're great. You're great. We see there's a spillover crowd. There's a television and a feed set up in the library. So if anyone in the hallway, and I don't know if anyone can hear me in the hallway, but if anyone in the hallway would prefer to go to the library to observe, and then if you wanted to speak, maybe come down when you're called, we could certainly do that. Or as there may be a few seats here still in the room. So, all right.
Do you want to have the volume on the microphone turned up too?
Yeah. Do we not? Can we? Is there a way to turn up the volume on the microphone?
Is that the issue with the podium mic?
It's the stream. Podium mic's not projecting to the room sufficiently for everyone to hear, so we've been using this.
It could be. Yeah.
Could we at least run one of the loud mics to the podium?
I think what he's saying is it's too close to the speaker.
Right. Yeah.
It's feedback.
Is it the stream?
I see what you're saying.
The way the podium mic is connected probably has to do with why the sound, because it's cherry, it's pigtailed off of another mic, and so that's why. Okay.
It's less than an audio visual. So we
All
can't
right.
use like Mr. Pigeon's mic as a loud mic right there.
We could, however, the cord is not going to reach from where he's at to the podium. Okay.
Let's continue.
Therefore,
All right. So right.
keep using.
So pardon the interruption. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Hello, my name is Finn. I'm a freshman that goes to Southern Lehigh School District, and I'm also trans. For many years, trans people have fought for the right to live as they want and have finally started to be included and cared for. Recently, however, all over the country, trans people's rights have been stripped from us in many different ways to the point where it could become a genocide. If you're going to if you're going to do the same, you will be contributing to the death of many innocent trans kids. As as I was made to live my life like a girl my as I'm made to live like a girl my whole life, it messed me up seriously. When I figured out who I was so happy, but met with so much hate from other students. Knowing that the school will at least let me use the bathroom I prefer gave me some security that I wasn't weird or a freak. Hearing about this suggestion for the school policy broke my heart because this is the one thing that trans people had in the school district. The school promotes including other people, and by not giving trans kids like me the right to go to the bathroom we prefer, would be going against exactly what the school promotes. I just want to live how all other kids live, and that shouldn't be judged or shamed. We have lives just like you, and we should have rights just like you. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kylie Baker. I am a student here at Southern Lehigh. I'm a senior. I'm a young woman, and I've gone to Southern Lehigh my entire life. Today, you've been presented with voices of parents and community members, all of which are more than entitled to their own opinions and wishes. What I'm asking today is that you listen to who this impacts and to who this will be affecting by this new policies, to those that attend the schools you're discussing, and I'm asking that you listen to students. These people we talk about today aren't outsiders. They're not visitors and they're not predators of some kind. They're students, just as I am. They're my friends, they are my peers, and above all, they are children who deserve to use a bathroom they feel safe in, who deserve to be referred to by the name and pronouns that align with them, and who deserve to be able to trust their teachers. These are children we're speaking out. They are not out to hurt others or attack others. All they ask is to exist in peace with us. I understand that there are no current motions or movements towards this concept. I say this only in response to recent community outcry and proposals. All of this to say that as you as a board seek to take actions against these students to enact these kinds of policies, I ask not only you, but everybody here, what is motivating this? I want you to think of the parents that want a secure place for their children, to think of the current students who want to be safe and comfortable in this, our school district. If you wish to call it a culture war of some kind, let me tell you the culture that this idea of a transgender bathroom ban could establish. One of fear, one of bullying, prejudice, hate, and anger. I may be leaving my school in a few months, but I love it enough to want a good and healthy place for our community's children to grow up in. So I ask all here to consider if treating some of your most vulnerable students as part of some ulterior motive or agenda in creating a culture of fear is really the kind of place our district should be. Thank you.
Hello, I just want to thank everyone on the board for letting me speak tonight. And I just wanted to come and give another student perspective. Every single one of my friends, every single one of my peers, I've never once heard anyone complain about the situation with trans kids using the bathrooms of their preferred gender. And this really isn't a political issue. This isn't any issue of privacy. This is just an issue of parents being, well, they may have well intentions. They are really going out and attacking other students for being who they are. Nobody at this school really, nobody at the high school level really is afraid of trans kids using the bathroom that they identify with. And really, we've seen the studies on this. Other members have come up that are much more qualified than me and have said the same things about suicidal ideation, stuff like that. And really, the consequences of this, of solving a non-issue, is going to be really serious to many students. And I just want to come up here and say that. Thank you for your time.
I would like to thank the board for allowing me to speak today. For the past year, this district has faced its fair share of controversy, especially revolving around queer students. I share a similar concern previously expressed by my peers. For one, the issue of trans bathrooms is one of complete nonsense, only stirred up to distract from real issues. The main concern from parents supporting the circulating petition previously mentioned is the concern of safety of students in our bathrooms. I understand why you may be upset, but the truth is trans people are not the threat at hand. Both Harvard School of Public Health and Routers find that when trans teens are allowed to use the bathroom they identify with, opposed to the one assigned to them at birth, they are less likely to be the victim of sexual assault. Trans men forced to use the women's restroom were 26% more likely to face assault, and trans women forced to use the men's restroom were twice as likely to experience sexual assault. All the while, the University of California, Los Angeles reports in a 2018 study that there is no correlation between inclusive policy allowing transgender individuals to use the bathroom of their choosing and a decrease in safety. If we truly care about sexual assault here at Southern Lehigh, our focus should not be on the small percent of trans students here that do not perpetrate violence, but instead shift our attention to more comprehensive sex ed that would include lessons of consent. I, Jacqueline Bossert, am a queer student here at Southern Lehigh. I have firsthand experienced the consequences of being out and proud in my identity. Slurs passing in the hallway, untasteful remarks whispered in the back of class, my peers, people I once considered my friends, leaving me because I use they, them pronouns. I am the type of person affected by your attitude towards the queer student population. I know many of the parents in this room. I've had dinners with you. I've had church services with you. I've played sports with your children. I've spent time with you in moments of togetherness. Trans people are not a foreign or distant community. We are here. We break bread with you. We consider you friends, elders, neighbors. I am a part of your community and you a part of mine. Listen to the words of this speech as they provide the necessary evidence to understand that we are not a threat, but violent and hate-filled ideology most definitely is. All we ask in return is respect and understanding.
I had to make notes. I'm not as practiced as Jacqueline. Okay. I'm an independent, so this isn't like some political thing for me, all right? I think I represent reasonable middle ground of our constituency, all right? What got me most worked up about this whole thing was that memo that went around, and then everybody made a big deal about the memo, and then a bunch of people wanted to turn the teachers into the gay police or whatever. And if you don't know your kid well enough to know they're gay, I don't think you should be appointing teachers to be the gay police. Okay. And if you are, is that going to be in the job description? I'm serious. Because that would be a consideration. If I was going to be a teacher and I knew I had to rat out some kid to their parents when obviously they must be uncomfortable with their parents if they're afraid of getting ratted out to them. I got a bunch of points here, but I just want to make sure that what I think is represented here, and thankfully there have been plenty of people here that are along those lines. But what it really boils down to me is if you save one kid's life by not promoting homophobic paranoia, it's worth everybody else being uncomfortable. It's that simple. And I get the impression that this is mostly about the bathroom issue. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Aren't there stalls in the girls' bathroom? I'm serious. Because to listen to some people, you would think that the toilets are there like urinals are in the men's room, but there's stalls in the girls' bathroom. So I can see if a trans goes into the girls' room with a penis and is like showing their penis, sorry, if they're showing their penis to everybody, well, that's another story, you know? But I think that would be the same thing as a guy going into the guy's bathroom and showing his penis to everybody, too. You know what I mean? There's stalls in the girls' bathroom. It's not like everybody's whipping out their genitals and showing them to everybody. Well, it's comical, but it's serious, you know? So I don't know what the big deal is. And I'm not like some fanatical about it. I don't think, okay, I don't think dudes should be taking girls' trophies in sports. So I'm not that far, but I don't want anybody dying because somebody's uncomfortable. Thank you.
So, as you may or may not have heard, there were some claps for the previous speaker overlaying that. My name is Isabella Huang, and I am a student, a senior at the school, and I'm here to advocate for my peers who often find themselves misunderstood and miscredited by this district. These students are not my bullies, they're not my enemies, they're not my rivals in any way. They're my friends, in some cases, teammates, classmates, and they're all my peers. Transgender students don't walk into bathrooms with malicious intent, just as I or any other cisgender student does not as well. Now, I realize that a previous speaker has come up here talking about how some female students feel uncomfortable sharing bathrooms with their transgender peers. Now, ultimately, I have three responses here. One, any sort of sexual harassment or physical assault remains illegal and against school policies, no matter which world we live in, just as this previous speaker very well noted in his speech. Now, and secondly, any bathroom you go to will have barriers in the form of stall walls from which it is impossible or should be impossible in order to see or identify who is next door to you. And lastly, if you find yourself intimidated by transgender students in bathrooms, ask yourself why. What specifically are you afraid of? Because statistically, transgender students have far more to fear than the cisgender majority. Now, I myself am a 4'10", very small female. I'm intimidated by anybody over 6 feet. Yet I don't call them bullies. I may ask them to help me pick up something from a tall shelf. A bathroom or locker room is ultimately a shared private space. And ultimately, any comfort gained in that space is predicated on the idea of respect and trust. My fellow students respect me, and I respect them. And if there is anybody who needs to be doing legwork in order to gain trust, in order to share that private space, maybe it's us, the majority, who have time and again ostracized our own peers. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for hearing us tonight. It is my understanding that Southern Lehigh School District is breaking the federal Title IX law and state law by allowing people to use opposite sex bathrooms in locker rooms. The whole point of having separate bathrooms for genders is so that each gender may have a private place to dress and use facilities from the opposite sex. If you want gender-neutral bathrooms, then maybe Southern Lehigh should build bathrooms that are and showers that allow for one individual at a time to access them, not to have shared bathrooms. I doubt that this is financially appropriate way to spend our tax dollars. So I feel that the shared bathrooms must be kept safe by allowing only one biological gender in male, female bathrooms, showers, or locker rooms. We've heard a lot of talk about the bathrooms tonight, but we haven't talked about being in the same showers and locker rooms, which would be a much bigger concern than what we're talking about with the bathrooms. We've had 3 children at Southern Lehigh that have graduated here. And my daughter is now at a private school because we have not been happy with the way Southern Lehigh has been running this district. We did strongly consider in sending her back to Southern Lehigh, but she would be terribly uncomfortable and has mentioned that to us, that she would be terribly uncomfortable having trans boys in the bathroom with her, or in the locker rooms, or in the showers, obviously, with her. So yes, there are, I'm sure, I work with trans people, I work with gender fluid people. I don't have an issue with them as people, but I feel like that we need to keep the kids that are not trans safe and in a place where they feel comfortable also.
Thank you for allowing me to speak today. Today I would like to simply present you with 2 facts. First, due to state law, Southern Lehigh High School allows transgender individuals in our school to be able to use their restroom of choice. As I and any other students that attends the school would say, this has never been a problem. It has not caused any issues within our school since its inception. However, if you don't believe our testimony, CNN reached out to 20 law enforcement agencies in states with anti-discrimination policies covering gender identity, none who answered reported any bathroom assaults after the policies took effect. The transgender individuals in our school are our peers and our friends, and it is untrue and unwarranted to act as though they are a danger to our school. They are people and they are students and are just as deserving of the board's protection as any other student. Second, gender-affirming actions such as allowing trans individuals to use their preferred bathroom will protect and benefit the transgender students in this school. According to the American Medical Association, exclusionary policies require transgender individuals to live one facet of their lives in contradiction with their gender identity. Such policies threaten to exacerbate the risks of anxiety and depression, low self-esteem, engaging in self-injurious behaviors, suicide, substance abuse, homelessness, and eating disorders, among other adverse outcomes. They continue to cite research stating that nearly 70% of transgender survey respondents reported verbal harassment and 9% reported at physical assault in gender-segregated bathrooms. If we want to protect the children of the school instead of focusing on a problem that doesn't exist, we should focus on what could detriment the mental and physical health of an already vulnerable community. A school board's purpose is to represent and serve its students. We are the people that are impacted by the actions of the board, so listen to us. Listen to the voices of the students that have absolutely no problem with the current policy in place, and most importantly, listen to the voices of the trans people in our school, because they are who are most impacted and they are who are in need of your protection. Thank you.
Hi. Hi, my name is Evelyn Wang. I'm a senior at Southern Lehigh High School. Thank you for lending me your time and attention. I just wanted to address discussions concerning educational policy here at Southern Lehigh. You know, the removal of topics such as critical race theory, as far as that goes, is evidently not a concern. Not just because as a senior, I haven't personally covered it and don't believe I will in the last 3 months remaining before graduation, but also because of the words of educators and scholars around the country who affirm that critical race theory is a framework taught exclusively in higher education at the college level. But I guess that also raises the question of what constitutes as woke and what constitutes as cynic and partisan. Education isn't just learning information. It's also attaining the skills and opportunities for critical thinking, to acknowledge and understand the history of our country and to analyze it. We learn history to prevent it from happening again, and to ignore figures like Rosa Parks or institutions like slavery would to be ignoring aspects of injustice and oppression that are ingrained into our history. And teaching about racism does not inherently assign guilt. I'm speaking as an Asian American student, a part of a community whose past could be considered as woke and yet is undeniably American. And to Thank you. And to ignore that would be to ignore what is undeniably American history. I'm worried that trying to avoid indoctrination, propaganda, we head in the same direction that performs exactly that by excluding parts of our history that we find less appealing. Thank you for your time.
My name is Lark Kurtz. I have 2 kids in the district. Thank you to the board for hearing my comments tonight. I wanted to address a pledge that was signed by school board candidates. I found it very alarming and I wanted to voice my opinion against it. In this pledge, they want to eliminate what I understand is the current legal policy regarding transgender students using bathrooms and locker rooms. They want to allow district employees to fail to use names and pronouns of transgender students. They want to impose what they term a neutrality policy, which seems to ban staff from showing support for any political or social viewpoint, and they want to enforce that with public hearings. All of this while inserting heavily political statements into their pledge, stating that they will reject woke politics in schools and directly referencing critical race theory, a collegiate level theory that is not taught in grade school. All of these pledges are strikingly similar to policies already in effect in another Pennsylvania district, Central Bucks District. In Central Bucks, they are spending $15,000 per month on a public relations firm to defend their image. They are spending $1 million and rising in legal fees. That's in response to an ACLU filed lawsuit, a federal civil rights lawsuit complaint filed on behalf of LGBTQ students, alleging that the district created a toxic educational environment for the students. A few days ago, the district's chief operating officer reported they are spending $300,000 to $500,000 per month in legal fees, and that's ongoing. That's well over $1 million in the pursuit of what, in my view, is a radical political agenda. So I ask this board, if such things were to happen here, who pays for this? It's easy to claim fiscal responsibility and promise you won't raise taxes, but would such a complaint, if filed against the district, be covered by the district's legal insurance? What is the upper limit of this legal insurance? Can we expect premiums to rise as a result of such a high claim? Would the financial burden of a rise in premiums fall on the taxpayers? Who pays for PR firms if they are hired? And finally, our teachers should not be subject to an open-ended and overbroad so-called neutrality policy, making them afraid to answer basic questions during history lessons, lest they face public hearing or potential job loss. Children are inquisitive, and it's natural for kids to have questions on topics such as Dr. King and the civil rights movement. This policy, in effect, would likely lead to teacher attrition and even loss of subject matter from the curriculum. These proposed policies would have devastating effects on the school district. They are radical and inappropriately political. They will reduce quality of education for our students, could lead to loss of qualified teachers, reduce the ability to attract staff, result in great loss to the reputation of this fine school district, and ultimately lead to reduced value of homes in the Southern Lehigh School District. Please reject the voices of those that would have you make a spectacle of our fine school district. I ask that this board does not listen to the request to play politics with our taxpayer dollars, but uses our taxes to educate our children.
Good evening. My name is Brandon Kurtz, and I am a proud graduate of the Southern Lehigh School District about 30 years ago. I moved all around the country and decided to move back here when I was ready to settle down with some roots with my own two kids. What a better place to raise them. What a fine education I received here. Set me up for success for the entirety of my life. So I just want to correct something that somebody stated previously about Title IX violations. The state of the law in Pennsylvania today is that, and I quote, this is directly from the Pennsylvania School Boards Association, all students may use the bathroom and locker room that align with their gender identity, end quote. That's it, right? That is the state of the law in Pennsylvania today. The Pennsylvania School Board Association further states that there is no evidence that the transgender students using their restrooms and locker rooms aligned with their gender identity have behaved in any inappropriate, harassing, or invasive manners. So I'd kind of like to add my voice to the chorus of speakers before me that are in favor of rational and evidence-based policies and decision-making. Perhaps we shouldn't spend our time and our energy tilting at windmills over culture war issues that exist solely to divide us. I'd like to further reinforce some things that my wife said, since many of the people that are, we'll say, promulgating these types of policies have fiscal responsibility first and foremost on their list of things that they think they want to achieve. Look again no further than Central Bucks, spending $300,000 to $500,000 monthly in defense of those policies because they had suits from the ACLU. They're facing Department of Education federal investigations. They retained a PR firm at the cost of $11,000 a month to taxpayers. And for what? What was the purpose of all of that? How many educators could we have hired with that $300,000 to $500,000 a month? How many support staff? These types of policies do nothing but further deteriorate the education system. They will drive teachers away. They will make it harder for us to compete and retain and attract talent that is able to offer the same kind of education that I graduated with nearly 30 years ago. Thank you for your time.
No, I'm sorry, you cannot speak.
We do not have 903 policy.
We have a sunshine law.
We have a
You have a
policy.
sunshine law, and I'll tell you what, you're gonna make a big mistake, because it says representatives, people that represent a group or parents in your school district can speak at public meetings. I can guarantee you that.
No, we have public participation.
Here, wait.
wait.
You don't have a 903 policy.
We do not have a 903 policy, and our public participation then references accordance with law, board procedures, and policy. I'm looking at Sunshine 65 Pa.C.S 710.1 that permits the board or council of a political subdivision or authority created by a public subdivision shall provide a reasonable opportunity at each advertised regular meeting and advertised special meeting for residents of the political subdivision or the authority created by the political subdivision before official action. The board or council also has the option to permit taxpayers.
If you read the Pensbury case, which was just litigated a year and a half ago, you're gonna make a big mistake here tonight.
And now they have a policy 903.
You don't have it online. I can't find it anymore.
Pennsbury had policy 903,
Correct.
and that's what was challenged.
Federal court was that if I represent a group of parents, which I do today, because I'm in contact with them, that I'm allowed to speak. So you're about to make a big mistake on my First Amendment. I represent the entire state. I have people I deal with from the entire state. What I'm here to say tonight is pretty important.
And my understanding of the Pennsbury case is that the challenge was policy 903, not the applicable Sunshine Act.
I know it very clearly. So you're allowed to give your residents, your taxpayers, and I'm glad I was on here last, because I didn't want to disrupt this meeting. But now that I may be one of the last ones called, I'm telling you what the legal authority is today. And that is, and I could cite that Pensbury case, and I'll use that if I need to leave here and get some remedy, because that is the current legal standard, Pensbury. And you have to allow for taxpayers, residents, which are not even defined currently, but more importantly, representatives of a group within your school district.
Was Pennsbury decided in Lehigh County? It was not.
It was a federal case, ma'am. That
Understood.
permeates across the entire
on a preliminary injunction.
It was settled.
Hmm. And if there's a court order, so if I hand you the Sunshine Act here, the Sunshine Law, okay, so can you point out for me where it says that you, as a representative, and not policy 903, permits you to speak here today?
You're supposed to use that to create your policy.
Exactly. So then we default to the law, which is the Sunshine Act.
And you can make that decision. I'm
Hmm.
just trying to warn you against it. You can make that decision.
Hmm. I appreciate that.
Okay, order, folks.
First of all, this is not a public forum. It's not a debate. I am not here to debate the law.
You guys are all public servants. This is a public forum.
This is public comment.
I pay state and federal taxes, both of which Southern Lehigh receives. Okay, so we can go a lot of different ways on this. But what I'm telling you today is that your 3 minutes are up. Hansberry.
I'm going to make the exception, although I agree with our solicitor on her interpretation of the Sunshine Law as it applies to Southern Lehigh. We are following the law. I will make an exception and allow you to speak tonight.
He just threatened a member of the audience.
What did he say?
He said he would meet him in the parking lot.
He didn't say he would meet him. He wouldn't say that. He said he wouldn't say that to me in the parking lot. So he didn't say.
Folks, you have comported yourself excellently tonight. I have never been more proud to be a member of this community. I would ask that we let everyone be heard. I'm not supporting or denying anyone's position here, but I say this community so far has represented itself excellently. I'm proud to be a member of it. I'm proud voices came to here to be spoken out. As a member of this board, I respect the president's leadership, as I was hoped when I was president that my board members would support and respect my leadership. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for being heard. I would just ask that we all be quiet so that we can all continue to hear each other and work on this as a community. That's my request. Thank you so much. I've never been more proud. So I'm sorry I interrupted President Reinhardt's in what she was saying. I would ask that, because I couldn't hear what she was saying, for her to restate that now, Ms. Reinhardt's.
I said I was making an exception tonight to allow this, although I do believe that our solicitor, Ms. Moyer, is correct, that we are not permitted, based on the Sunshine Law, to allow you to speak tonight. But I'm making an exception.
Well, I thank you, and you're doing the right thing. Because I've read through many policies.
Could we please give him a mic that can be heard everywhere as well?
I read through many policies, and all these 903 policies across the state, which is public participation, which is your citizens' First Amendment right to speak and address you for any issues they may have. So if you don't have that policy, number one, that's the first thing that's wrong. But ma'am, I can tell you 95% of what I've seen on 903 policies across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania have those exact terms that I laid out tonight. Taxpayer, resident, or somebody representing a group. And what I'm representing here tonight is a bunch of parents who may not have the time or even maybe the courage to come up and speak. So I'm speaking on their behalf. I served in the Marine Corps from 2003 to 2007, so my right to speak and my constitutional rights in totality are something that's very important to me. And I won't let anybody take those away, regardless of what's said behind me. I want to address a few things that were said. First off, the PSBA does not make laws. Let's make that very clear. Title IX, as it currently stands right now, has 11 criteria for the use of bathrooms or facilities. Gender identity is not one of them. You've heard a lot of opinions tonight and a lot of expressed emotion and anger, but it's not rooted in fact. I want to actually state what is empirical evidence that is not questionable. There is absolutely a undeniable difference between biological constructs between men and women. If you look at the NCAA basketball, we're all watching March Madness right now, or if you are, you'll see that the NCAA tournament's going on. The average men's team in the NCAA right now is 6'7". The average women's team is 5'6". There's a clear distinction between a man and a woman. Somebody asked what motivates this. This is not a culture war for me. I'm a parent. I have a daughter. That's why I care so deeply about the situation and this topic. But there is clear, definitive facts out there that are not emotions, not opinions, that you all need to take into consideration. I don't have a lot of time left, so I'll be quick. So we are currently in talks with a coalition of female patriots and warriors out there. There's a case right now that's being potentially taken up to the Supreme Court. It's BJP versus West Virginia. My hope is that it does go to the Supreme Court, so this could be litigated and finalized once and for all. But what we're doing with this coalition, we in the group Citizens Advisory of Pennsylvania, is we're tagging on with them, and we're going to follow any litigation that needs to take place. People want to talk Central Bucks West and how they're spending this, unneeded money. Well, I can guarantee you, because of what I said on Title IX, and that is the truth and the facts, that if you take a different stance on that, you'll be sued the same exact way. Thank you.
Can everyone hear me okay? No? No? All right, I'll go back over here. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. My name is Lisa Maloney. I am a parent of 2 children in the district, one in high school and one in elementary school. I'm going to start off by saying that I moved to this school district on purpose from another one. This is a good school district, but I have concerns about the path down which we are headed. I'm going to go back to someone saying that they sent their kids to private school because they were concerned about the state of our current district. I actually am leaning in the other direction. The campaigns against inclusivity and rights for our LGBTQ students make me question my residency in this district. The proposed resolutions limiting transgender rights create an unbalanced education for our students. And furthermore, the topic of transgender rights is only politicized because others with differing beliefs make it politicized. The conversation around gender identity should be a medical one, not a political or an educational one. Being transgender is not a novel view, a lifestyle, or a fad, or a false teaching, as some have stated. This is someone's very state of existence that we are talking about. And being LGBTQ is an accepted medical and psychological state validated through legitimate research. While identifying as transgender is not a mental illness in any way, mental illness does occur in this population in disproportionate amounts when these people are not supported in their identities, and as a result of social stigmas and attempts to prevent them from expressing their identities, as some of our proposed resolutions would do for them. The LGBTQ community is not here to sway others to their identities, nor do they present a danger to anyone. In fact, transgender people are over 4 times more likely to experience verbal, physical, and sexual assault than the cisgender community. And that is based on a recent study from UCLA Law. And I can provide that reference if anyone would like to read it. In asking for equality and safety for our transgender youth, there is no indoctrination. There is no queer theory being pushed here. LGBTQ persons deserve to live authentically as the people they are meant to be. Except some want them to do it under a microscope and with shame because their lives don't fit the theories others attempt to force on them. By not respecting and supporting a transgender person's rights to have a safe space to perform their daily practices and functions, and also to have their preferred pronouns and names used in their daily lives, which not a lot of people have addressed here tonight. We're creating an invalidating experience for these human beings. Using a person's correct pronouns signals mutual respect and creates a welcoming and tolerant environment in our schools and our communities. And that's what I believe that we were all here to provide for all of our students. Intentional refusal to use someone's correct pronouns may even be considered harassment and a violation of one's civil rights, according to the US government's National Institutes of Health. And I also have that reference if anyone would like that. Thank you for hearing me, and I hope that you will protect all of our students, regardless of their orientation.
Thank you, everybody. Ms. Moyer?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Reinhardt. We had an executive.
You're not-
Emily's has the magic touch. There was an executive session held after the workshop meeting on March 13th for an hour to discuss potential student litigation. There was an executive session held tonight for a half hour before the board meeting to discuss a safety and security issue, a personnel matter related to performance of a particular individual, and potential litigation.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the board minutes of February 27th and the workshop minutes of March 13th, 2023?
Second.
Any comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Minutes are approved. Dr. Mann?
Thank you, Mrs. Reinhardt.
And could I suggest we just let people exit
Yes.
before we continue?
Maybe we could ask people to continue down the hallway all the way, just because it's loud, or shut those doors. Yeah.
Could you please shut the door? Thank you. Okay, Dr. Mann?
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Reinhardt. First, I want to acknowledge all of our students and families who are celebrating Ramadan this month. And on a scheduling note, we also want to say that on Easter Monday, 4/10, we'll not be having a work session. And happy Easter to all of our families who are celebrating. On our agenda tonight, I'm very pleased to be presenting a request to accept the bid for repair on our intermediate school. I do want to acknowledge publicly the work of our facility committee, Mr. Pepe and Mr. Rohrbaugh, for their long hours of work. I want to thank Dr. Trinkle, who will be presenting very briefly tonight on our continuing efforts to develop the best language arts program in the Commonwealth. We do have an additional dual enrollment approval on our agenda to enhance our medical career opportunities. And the one action item under my report tonight is that we respectfully request the board to approve the new updated Southern Lehigh School District organizational chart, which simply represents some of the changes and realignments that have occurred in, say, the past year or so.
Second.
Do we have any comments and questions on any of those motions?
So I'm sorry, we're going all the way through the entire, through 8? Okay. Got it. I did have some questions regarding number 9, the support services, specifically for facilities. Um, I understand that we have a contingency budget, and I mean, Bill, I don't know if you can comment why we have, are these going to pop up every meeting and that we're going to be approving additional costs because that contingency budget? No, and the reason I'm bringing it up, I understand this happens with construction. I'm not blind to that, but I have concerns. I also, because the contingency budget, because obviously funds that we could use for something else.
Correct.
And my follow-up question is, since I asked about a month ago with respect to the performing arts, and this month is a music education month, ironically enough, I wanted to know whether we had had any progress with respect to reaching out to music departments across the district, because my understanding is there was a list of requests that had been worked on prior to construction being finalized in a different direction, meaning no performing arts center. So sorry, I just figured I'd get it all out there.
No, that's good. And Dr. Swin, I particularly want to thank you because in my haste to do my report, I did not note our students and their great work in performing Rock of Ages. So I thank you for that opportunity to remind me that I should not have skipped right through. So to the first set of questions, we are very sensitive to the idea of change orders and increasing of costs, no doubt. And so the biggest, not probably, the biggest one on this is the change order over the basin. What happened was that there was a change in categorization from the permitting group, from the Conservancy District, regarding requirements, and there was also an additional change in requirements for the township. And essentially, we had to plan for a century level flood as opposed to, I think, maybe a 10-year level flood, which changed some of the requirements. Now, the second part had to do with, for example, plants. We had initially put in that we would seed and the thing would grow, but in the midst of the planning, late emergence was this, we had to actually put in plugged plants. And there actually was a significant cost difference. And regrettably, we were never put on notice of these changes until well after the fact, when it was identified by Athletic Fields of America. So while we very much regret and recognize that that is a big bump, it really was driven by circumstances beyond our control and some changes that had occurred along the way. Now, as far as I think some of the smaller ones, I know you're not asking about lacrosse netting and that kind of thing.
Well,
but
that was going to be a follow-up question.
Okay, well then.
Why we didn't perceive the lacrosse net and wiring for the scoreboard, I guess. Like, I can understand the
Right.
drainage situation, like that is kind of out of our hands, and that comes through with respect to township rules, but.
Right.
just feel
I
like
would add though.
Little
I
little
would
things
add,
add
though-
up.
I would add though, excuse me, on the basin area, there was an attempt by administration to counteract that cost. And it ended up at the end of the day that was not a viable.
Right. We pushed back as
solution.
hard as we dared. To
And
try to fill that.
I'm,
Of course.
I know you guys will. I mean, I've I've complete confidence in that.
And with respect to lacrosse, I think it's fair to ask, why wasn't that all included? And initially, actually, there was a large plan to run the net way up the sidelines, and I think about double or
It was
even more than
over
double.
$90,000.
Over $90,000.
Two things occurred. We made a decision that we do not need that based upon what they do at other fields. And also Lou worked with them to look at the different options. And this provides comparable protection for those walking on the track and such to what other fields have. It's a product that we should get good durability and lifespan from, but at a substantially reduced cost from what we were looking at initially. The wiring, I believe that was a decision to be made later based upon I think the installation and the type of scoreboard selected.
And that you're right, Mr. Lissette. The change order for the scoreboard was driven by the change in selection after we discussed, like in other words, when we talked about all the different options and how this one would actually have like an internet connection. And so the bulk of this is for I think it's the internet connection, but it's a conduit serving the scoreboard, which will allow it to tailor advertisements and connect to games. In addition, I think there was some extra, because of the size of the scoreboard, there was some additional concrete and work underneath the scoreboard to make sure that it stood up correctly.
If I remember this correctly, the signage and fencing, I believe that has to do with
came from the
large
township.
retention basin and the township.
Well, it was a requirement of the township. It was a requirement from the township to
And
have some
just-
additional fencing because they were concerned, I think, is largely about students and crowd control and that kind of thing. So that, essentially that's it.
I think
where we're
part
at.
of Dr. Serene's question, though, was not to explain the lacrosse netting, but more we knew we were going to need lacrosse netting, and when we were planning the stadium, we knew that lacrosse was going to be played there. So no, hang on. So lacrosse netting seems to be an important thing. Why was that not included in the initial amount? And something like netting or like goalposts, or like, are we going to get add-ons of other things that should have been maybe included in the initial?
I think
bids?
the goalposts were accounted for by the
I'm just-
architect.
I was being
The netting
sarcastic.
was not.
Yeah.
The netting was not in the original design scope because the architect did not factor it in.
Yeah,
And
and
I'm
that's the
pretty
answer.
comfortable in saying
That is
that.
the
But that's what I'm nervous. Like, are there
Right,
going to be a
that's
lot
what's
of
making me a
other
little
things that weren't factored in?
And what I will say, I mean, if you recall, we were slow to get all the final plans, and there was some challenges with respect to communication that was taking place. And this is not an excuse. It's very fair to say, if we're playing lacrosse, and when we say netting, it's not really the net for the
It's for the
lacrosse.
protective.
It's the
safety.
protective
Right,
netting.
again, it's
around
the
the
safety
whole
part.
thing.
It's not.
Very fair to ask, why wasn't that in there? I don't have a good answer for you, and thus we have a change order here before us today.
So how are we doing it moving forward then? Are we reviewing it just proactively now so that's not like a little bit here and there, or
Yeah, we have
do we
pushed
think
back
we're
against.
good now?
Yeah, I think we're good now. I think we're excellent.
Like we've gotten
now.
most of the little.
When we all read this big change order, we were stunned, and with it, and well, again, we've made good progress in controlling costs and pushing back and building contingencies. This eats into the savings that we had thought we were going to receive. So we're still in a good place. We thought we were in an excellent place, but we've been, clearly demoted to good right now. And so, I mean, that's really all the explanation I can.
Well, I would just say that for the wiring aspect for the scoreboard, that decision point was made after the others, simply because we were looking at return on investment for the more expensive features of the other scoreboard, so that advertising dollars would be coming in. And actually the return on investment, we had, Mr. Pepe had already discussed that the return is well in excess of what this is. So that was part of that calculation.
And are we already proactively setting up those advertising
We've had
sponsors, so to speak, so that we're
we've
ready
had-
to go with them?
Yes, we've had some excellent conversations because part of the scoreboard contract is to do a marketing assessment. And so we currently are very much engaged with this company to develop promotional materials, to get a pricing, kind of do a market survey to make sure that we're asking an appropriate amount, not too much, not too little. And we are very soon then going to transition to the actual marketing of it. So in short answer to your question, yes, very much underway in that process.
Yeah, and I, for one, Dr. Serene, was skeptical about having anything more than a basic scoreboard based on cost and need and all of that. But at the end of the day, when they went through the numbers, there was an advantage to that, significant advantage. So that's why I agreed to it.
My question is that we spent $250,000 on a scoreboard, and now tonight you're asking for $23,000 more to be approved for the scoreboard. And I'm just at like, what is this 23,000 for exactly?
That's the power distribution and the communication interfaces for the board, because if you have a simple LED board with just numbers, it's a different connection.
But I thought that the $250,000 scoreboard already included the fancy, it was the fancy scoreboard. It was the
No,
fancy
I think the
scoreboard.
conduit and the delivery is part of the stadium upgrade itself, and there was a base number in there. That was, to my knowledge, the
Right.
base number, and it had to be changed.
Yeah, and because we're getting the scoreboard that we asked for, but by virtue of the fact that we are getting that scoreboard, there's conduit and other things that have to. Ideally, we could have said, and when we built it, we would have included that number, but it was not available because there was some design involved with it. So we had this large scoreboard, and then we needed to run conduit and do a number of other things that were then subsequently determined by Athletic Fields of America. And they actually have looked to say, all right, we're pouring footers and we're going to try to use what we have in order to do this. So it's been done in a way that has tried to minimize cost. But certainly it's an added cost above what was originally, but it's driven by what is necessitated by the scoreboard, not the scoreboard itself.
I think Dr. Wayak may be able to concur with the return on investment.
Absolutely.
Of that upgrade.
When we're talking about return on investment, we're talking about the advertisers that will be brought in through
Right.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
Thanks. My question then, I believe when we first started discussing this and a scoreboard capable of that, was whether or not we had, I know having a couple of us who sat on the board for a few years and we've had discussions of policy about what kinds of advertisements will be in our school spaces, and also whether they will be permanent kinds of advertisements or whether they will be up during a game and then taken down. So digital to me applies to those up during a game taken down. I would just request that before we, as a board, launch you've had great conversations about advertisers, which is wonderful to fund our school. I would just ask that could we revisit our policy and see if we need to amend, adjust, or update our district advertising policy, and perhaps, since we haven't had this capability before, decide as a board what kinds of advertisements, and just to set a base policy so everybody's on the same page before we have some sort of conflict that we need to write a policy for. I'd like to make that request. I don't know if that's been started or if our legal team could recommend other districts that have that kind of LED scoreboard advertising capability, what kind of policy they have. But since this is new to us, I would just like that to be on our horizon as well. Thanks. And actually, if I didn't want to interrupt, I had another comment to go back to Dr. Serene's. I didn't want to interrupt the flow of the stadium project if there's someone else who wanted something. But before we take a vote, I have further discussion about the arts investment.
But that has nothing to do with change orders.
Correct. It was just a point of
because I keep bringing it up on facilities whenever we talk about facilities.
I know, but this
And it
particular
has-
motion is about a change order.
No, I agree.
And your
And
comments.
Jeff, let me handle it real quick. It's been brought up in facilities. Once we get through the brick issue and the other issues that are priorities right now, I've asked that we go back and revisit the KCBA recommendations that came out of the focus groups that were done specifically to the arts area.
Okay, and I did ask though at the last meeting, and I was kind of given the impression that the administration would reach out to our music educators just to touch base with them. I understand that you're going to be working on that, and I appreciate you redirecting and.
Okay, Dr. Serene, thanks for the reminder. Any other comments or questions regarding these agenda items and resolutions?
If I'm not going to be able to speak on it now, I'll bring it up under other business or new business later. I would just appreciate mention. Thank you to Dr. Mahan for mentioning the school musical, and as a for example.
Okay,
ask.
let's stick to the agenda.
All right. Well, then I'm going to bring it up later.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right. So, do I have a motion to approve these resolutions? We already had that. Let's vote. I'm sorry, I'm getting tired. All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, Those motions are approved. I think we pretty much covered the committee report from the Facilities Committee. Under new business and under committee reports, if you are interested in serving on an ad hoc negotiating committee for the teacher's contract, please email me directly. At our next meeting, I will select three of individuals, and you will vote to approve those individuals as members of that ad hoc committee. Any questions on that? Negotiations for the teacher's contract. No, it's for the union employees.
The teachers' union contract is coming up. It was a 3-year contract.
Okay, so email, if you're interested in serving, email me. I'll select 3 people and we will vote to approve that committee, that ad hoc committee at the next meeting. Okay, Ms. Gaiman, you had other business?
I did, going back to what Dr. Stern was talking about that request, and we years ago about the music and arts request list, wish list, as it were. Years ago, we did conduct with KCBA facilities study of needed items, and the community came together and put together a bulleted list. That's one list, but that's several years old. I'm sure it's changed. And so if we could reach out to, as Dr. Shereen said, our faculty and our students again and see what that updated list of requested items would be. One of the things that is noticeable and that I, as a community member, was able to talk to folks in theater and stage this past week about is so my personal suggestion, having just lived it as a crew volunteer mom, stage mom there, is some of the lighting, much of the lighting of our spotlights in that space is old, and they had to, for instance, work hard to get a replacement light bulb for a spotlight. And the show was great, but you could definitely see one of the spotlights was a brand new bright light, and the other spotlight was candle light spotlight. Not intentional. So there are little things. When we talk about a list, we are not talking about spending huge quantities of money. I'm talking about light bulb money here that could really improve our crew's experience when they put on these productions. I'm talking about microphones.
Okay, Ms.
that can
Gaiman, I
talk.
think your comments are clear and so noted. We will request that the district administration look into that.
She was in the middle of you got to let her. She had other business. And
Does she
you
have
gotta
new
let her
business?
finish.
Is there any new business,
Well, the
Ms.
thing
Gaiman,
is, it's kind
besides what
of-
you've already spoken to?
It's recurring business. Like I asked last
I
time.
understand redundancy.
But
So
nothing
is
ever
there
gets
any other
done.
new comment, Ms. Gaiman, that you would like to add?
Yes. I would just ask that we as a board have not yet had any kind of team building or workshopping. And the kind of support I showed you an hour ago is not the kind of support I'm receiving now. That is my only other item.
Ms. Gaiman, I'm trying to run efficient meetings. And part of that is everybody has an opportunity to speak and we don't repeat ourselves. So we say it once.
Okay, but we also Karen had a presentation that we're now glossing over. Like we know it's late, we know it's getting later, but we're not conducting business because we're trying to rush through because it's getting late, and that's not.
I'm not trying to rush through.
Well, you told us to wait till new business, so we brought it up under new business.
Okay,
So I
and-
mean,
all
it's
right,
open
so
for
noted.
discussion if
So
anyone else
noted.
wants to
So noted.
comment.
Okay, the
No one
comments
else wants to
regarding
comment?
the
Can I ask
music
a council
program and the
support?
building related to the music program are so noted.
I
If I
just
could
want to
ask
see
a-
some progress. I understand we keep talking about. I understand there's priorities. I'm not just saying it for the sake of saying it. My point is, if I asked for something a month ago, very simple. I didn't say to actually do anything with respect to
I don't think that-
changes.
I think the problem is you asking for it is different than the board asking for it.
I
mean, at
thought
the
we
end
had
of the day, the
agreed.
board-
MJ
and look,
kind of gave me
if-
that
if Doc-
impression
if
that she
Dr. Mann
agreed.
wants to get that for you, that's his prerogative. I
It
guess.
was
But
my
at the end of the
impression-
day, the school board asked for things.
It was
A
my
majority of the
impression that
board
they agreed,
asked for
and it
things.
wasn't a matter of contention. It wasn't a divisive topic. I was given the impression that at least it would be looked into. That's what I heard.
Right, I'm just.
I
Tonight we had a whole lot
we
of
have-
discussion on both sides of an issue. On both sides, I'm not talking about
I
either
know.
side. We had a whole bunch of discussion about on both sides of an issue that had nothing.
I know.
Is not a policy that we brought up.
I got.
And nor is it a part of this agenda.
I understand
And yet,
that.
and they all left. It was as if they had two conversations amongst themselves and then left. If this is going to be what it's going to be like during this entire election year, I would suggest that we stick to our agendas and do the business of the people and the district and the kids and the students.
This is
and
for
leave
the kids.
politics
My
out of
point
it.
is, if it's not going to be put up during the agenda, new business is the time, right? You redirected, which was appropriate. I agree with you, but I'm asking to remember the other students. Also, there's a wide scope of
The
students that we
the
serve.
suggestion is that is that you can't do both. That if you were to spend money on a stadium, you must be against every.
No, I'm not saying that at
seems to be
all.
what you-
No, I'm
that seems to
asking
be
that
the
while we're
indication.
doing, I voted for the stadium, Jeff.
So did I, reluctantly.
I did. I'm asking, so, you know, we're doing these change orders, but what about,
time out. We're not doing the ping pong.
I'm just saying.
Your comments, Dr. Serene
Mike's.
and Ms. Gaiman,
Not a
are
full-
so noted under new business to the administration. I believe they heard your comments. Okay?
It may be helpful for us to note that those conversations, for instance, the lighting. I know we rent some lighting and then we have some, and sometimes it might be, we can get better something that we rent so I will come back with specifically the details of the conversations, but the conversations are occurring for sure.
Well, that's why I asked.
And maybe I'm going to interrupt you. Okay, maybe what we can do is put this topic on a workshop agenda so we can devote specific time on the agenda to the music programs.
To light bulbs. That's my point.
No,
right?
there's some safety issues
I
too
think-
with
I
respect
think
to
that-
Okay,
burnouts
I
and
don't
wiring.
disagree with you, and I also we need to conduct these meetings and move on. So your issues are so noted. The administration heard you, and we will put them on an agenda. Is that agreeable to you with Dr. Mann?
And the facility committee has heard too, because we started talking.
And the
about
facility
this.
committee heard you too, so they can add it to their agenda as well. We need to move on now.
And may I ask a question about, it's not about the stadium, it's not about anything, it's simply about what you'd asked about the contract negotiations with the teachers.
Sure.
It's not up until August of '24. So are we simply looking to start this very early, given how we've done in the past?
As we know, the mandated negotiations come up the January before.
Mhm.
And in my experience,
simply
there's a
looking to do
great
an
amount
early
of preparation
negotiation.
and data gathering that goes into this process. So I have requested the negotiation committee to be formed so that we can begin a process of gathering information and doing the advanced work that goes into being well prepared to engage with our partners in the association.
I'm sorry, I should have clarified that. It was a request from admin.
It's usually around July to August that we start, and then have some discussions in the fall. If they go well, great.
Okay.
So
And again, that may be my experience is different in having starting years in advance.
Not saying we were doing it right, I'm just recalling how we used to.
Okay. All right. Do we have any post-visitor comments?
I'm sorry, under
Oh,
new
sorry,
business,
can
I
I
had a
ask a que- oh,
question.
yeah, I have a question.
About
Okay,
field
sorry,
trips.
go ahead.
Some
More new
people have been
business.
asking me about this
Go ahead.
in the community. So we have field trips, I know, which is great because it was on the agenda. It reminded me. It seems that we have not been having class trips recently, and there used to be like a 6th grade trip, for example, to Ellis Island. So I guess some grades have not doing one, maybe some are. I just wanted to throw it out there and ask. I didn't know the full, but parents are asking me, so I felt it my due diligence to ask.
That's a good question. Mrs. Reinhardt, could I just ask a question? Maybe
Okay,
just.
Okay, so I'll ask Dr. Mann to get back to you on that. And also you can email any questions directly to Dr. Mann or give him a call.
So I just wanted to ask a question, and Jess, if you could just clarify this for us, because we had a number of comments at the beginning of the meeting, and I appreciate everyone's comments on both sides. And we were accused of not adhering to Title IX, right? So could you just clarify for us? So Title IX, some have said that it's interpreted, or I guess how Title IX is currently being interpreted. I know when you read Title IX, it mentions the word sex, does not mention gender. Could you just clarify for us, for the board, so that we can clarify for the community how Title IX is currently being interpreted in the courts?
Sorry. No, I think that's all right. If I go like this, you can hear me. Okay. So the comments concerning Title IX are accurate in the fact that Title IX refers to sex. It doesn't define it. However, when we look at how different courts and different agencies are interpreting Title IX. There have been a number of lawsuits that have been litigated. Some have been litigated to settlement. Some have been settled by the parties. And the majority of those cases have found in favor of transgender students, and those courts have said that the word sex in Title IX is broad enough to include gender identity, sexual orientation, and or that these particular students would be protected under the Equal Protection Clause. There have been multi-million-dollar settlements. Ivanko versus Pine Richland was a settlement out of the western part of the state in federal court. $135,000 were awarded to the transgender students. The seminal case of Grimm versus Gloucester County School Board out of the Fourth Circuit, $1.3 million was awarded to the transgender student. Madey versus Township High School District, that was in Illinois, that resulted in a settlement of $150,000 to the transgender student. NH versus Anoka Hennepin School District out of Minnesota. That resulted in a settlement of $300,000 to the transgender student. Winokur versus Kenosha Unified School District. That resulted in a settlement of $800,000 to a transgender student. RMA versus Blue Springs School District out of the Missouri Supreme Court. The court awarded $4.2 million to the transgender student in that case. There have been some cases that have gone the other way and found in favor, particularly out of the 11th Circuit, which has been brought here. But when you look at the majority of the cases, they have come down and there have been significant settlements and or verdicts in favor of the transgender students. We then have to look at the federal agencies who are currently interpreting Title IX. And as it stands today, the federal agencies who are coming in and investigating allegations of discrimination of Title IX have gone on the record and said that sex includes gender identity, sexual orientation, and have pledged to protect transgender students. The PHRC, who will investigate claims of discrimination under the Pennsylvania Human Relations Act, has also gone on record indicating that that is how they interpret sex as defined in the Pennsylvania law. So it is looking at the legal trends, it is looking at the cases that have come down, and it has been looking at how the various agencies who will come and investigate a school district are currently interpreting the word sex under Title IX.
Thank you very much for that clarification. And so you had mentioned a lot of the legislative branch, but also I think you mentioned the executive branch. So the executive branch also has a number of agencies that
Correct.
if a policy were in place that discriminated against a child who identified differently,
Yes.
then perhaps those agencies could also
Correct, and that's what's happening in Central Bucks. That there was allegations and the
that can
Office
occur
of
at both
Civil
the
Rights.
state and the federal level.
It could be both.
So-
You could have a private lawsuit, you could have a federal investigation, or you could have the PHRC, the state level, also come in and do an investigation. There's 3 separate avenues that is available. And currently there are regulations that are pending that provide further guidance concerning Title IX. And from what we hear, those are most likely to be adopted in May. Now, they've been pending for quite some time, but that's the latest that we have heard.
Thank you for that clarification.
Mhm.
Any other new business? Okay, post-visitor comments.
I'm glad Madam Solicitor made the clarification that there is no litigation in Central Bucks. I think it's a Title IX discussion. There was information given today that's just factually incorrect. There's no millions of dollars being spent in Central Bucks. There's allotments of $250,000. This conversation that there's litigation for $1 million and other numbers that were thrown about are just factually inaccurate. I want to also say that I remember just a couple years ago, 5 of you were sitting on this board when you implicitly trusted the solicitor on issues. And what that led to was an investigation. You had to hire a law firm to investigate misconduct by that solicitor and by the alleged conduct where you dismiss the solicitor and by the superintendent. So I think you are elected as a school board. As far as I know, the solicitor and Superintendent Mann, as well-intentioned as they are, they're not the king and queen of the school district. This is an autocracy. You are elected as board members. So you are elected by the community to make the decisions about these issues. And I will say there are very eloquent speakers tonight. I don't think anyone is in favor of discriminating against transgender students. I think we need to be aware that there are female students that will not use the bathrooms going from the intermediate school, the middle school, and the high school, will not use their assigned bathrooms for fear of running into a biological boy. Their concerns should be affirmed, and they're not being affirmed, not by counseling staff, they're not being affirmed by administration. They're being told that they have the issue if they have a concern with privacy. We've heard about stalls. Privacy in the bathroom begins at the door to the bathroom. And I think that needs to be at least be considered, that this board could make fair accommodations for transgender students and their privacy while also protecting the privacy of cisgender students. And I think that's reasonable that you can look into. And there are different court cases. The Third Circuit and the 11th Circuit have disagreed regarding the transgender issue. The 11th Circuit ruled in opposition to the Third Circuit. So this is going to eventually go to the Supreme Court. And I would ask that this board do the right thing to protect the privacy of students and do that now. This is the time to do it before tragically something could happen. But if there are female students that feel uncomfortable in the bathroom, affirm them and give them the privacy that they deserve. And I think Ms. Serene misspoke. The gentleman that was here, we've listened to the tape. He did not say, "I'll see you in the parking lot." So I think that is on record, maybe is the only recording on that. So I think you need to confirm or verify that he did not say that. He said, if I remember, yeah, we have the video, said, I doubt you would say that to me in the parking lot. He did not threaten anyone to go to the parking lot. So I think on record, I think that should be clarified. Thank you.
Is this mic working? Thank you. I just want to speak, wow, very eventful evening, about the importance of public education, which you all know, and the role that it plays in shaping our future and our society. Public education is the backbone of our country, and it's our responsibility to ensure that every child has access to quality education that prepares them for the success in life. The purpose of public education is to provide every student with the knowledge and skills they'll need to thrive, and to provide safe and inclusive environment for all students. Public schools are tasked with preparing students for college, career, and life beyond the classroom. Not only do our schools teach fundamental skills like reading, writing, math, public problem solving, communication skills, but they also provide opportunities for social and emotional learning. All of those are essential for healthy development. However, there are those who seek to undermine the importance of public education and discredit the hard work of our educators. They spread misinformation and fear just to justify their distrust of public schools and seek to silence those. Let me be clear. Teachers and administrators are not the enemy. They are dedicated professionals who have chosen to devote their lives to educating our children. We should be thanking them, not trying to silence them. The distrust of public education is not only misguided, but also dangerous. As a community, we need to support our school district and the staff who work tirelessly to ensure that every student has an opportunity to succeed. Let's embrace the importance of public ed in building a better future for all. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm not going to talk about the bathrooms because I just want to concentrate more on the classrooms and the bathrooms. As far as classrooms go, there were two things that our students did that blew me away again, besides some of the speakers tonight. One of them was the chamber orchestra. It was a last minute, the conductor said he had so much talent and the kids were so interested that it was kind of like a last minute orchestra and concert, and it was incredible, the talent that these students have. And then the second thing is the musical. The effort that these students put in, it was a week long of 6 nights a week, Saturdays and Sundays, a month. They've been meeting 4 days a week since January, and it showed. I felt there's some real talent in that group. And what was even more special was the parents, the network of parents that support it. I was new to all that. And then finally the community that came out and people donating money at the concession stand. Here's 20, here's 5, a student giving us $2 saying keep the change to help our students. So I'm just going to pass on that positive. Thank you.
Hello again. I just wanted to address what Mr. Durham said and give you the site for that. So this figure from Central Bucks is from a WHYY PBS NPR article. I can forward the site to all of you. The headline is Central Bucks reportedly plans to spend $1 million plus in legal fees in response to allegations of anti-LGBT discrimination in schools. The Dwayne Morris law firm is reportedly charging Central Bucks District $300,000 to $500,000 a month for at least 3 months. This is all directly from the Chief of Operations, Tara Hauser, from the district. And again, the questions I asked, I genuinely want to know these. I've been following this in Central Bucks for several months. Who is responsible for the price tag of this? Are we on the hook for this as taxpayers? Ultimately, what will happen here if these policies are imposed? Thank you.
I forgot a part earlier. Thank you for allowing me to speak again. So I just wanted to point out where the privacy begins. So right about like here, right about here is like where privacy is. So like you don't get to know what's inside my clothes, and you can't touch me. No human should be in this space. This is my private space. So I just wanted to make that clear, regardless of who you are. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Motion to adjourn? No comments. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.